It's Christmas time.
Yes!
This is
Merry Christmas.
wow. This is officially our Christmas Eve episode because that's when
Yes,
this
it
is going to be
is.
dropping.
And how many years have we done a Christmas Eve episode? Three?
Possibly, I don't know if this is year three, but my COVID memory, not that I have had COVID, but like the COVID era memory is just like
Yeah,
wreaking
who
havoc on my
knows?
brain. So I
Talk
know that,
about the multi-universes.
yeah. Well, so I know we talked about the 1935 Scrooge. I know we talked about
Yes.
Solstice.
Yes. Yes,
And
yes, yes.
and now we're going to talk about, uh, you know, I
This was my suggestion, by the way.
I know, and I don't think you get to pick anymore.
You pick Scrooge, stop.
No, but here's
I think we did Solstice together.
yes,
Because we just happened to come upon it.
right, and yeah, I think Jerry Vassilatos, that was his film, and did an interview with him that was really nice. So,
Yes.
but now we're talking about A Christmas Tale from 2008, directed
Not
by.
to be confused with Fievel or whatever that mouse's name was.
That was an American tale.
Yes.
This Christmas Tale isn't even American; it's French or Franche, directed by Arnaud Desplechin. Yeah, that's my 4 years of high school French coming into play.
What other film? I didn't get an opportunity. Is there another familiar film that he's done?
Not that I want to watch, but
We're gonna have a difference of opinion here, sir.
It sounds like we might, because I swear to God, I don't know what was going on with this film, but it was probably the most depressing 2.5 hours I've spent in a very long time. And I just watched Norte: The End of History a couple of weeks ago, which, if you don't know about, look it up.
Full of life, sir. It was full of life.
It's
Note that expression, folks.
It's full of people who are alive, I'll give you that much, but the most miserable collection of horrible people I could not have, aside from the two little kids. I think they were the only ones who had not been touched by the absolute poison running through this family's tree.
They were the cutest kids in France. I don't know where they found those two, but every time they were on screen, they made me smile.
Me too. And that was the only time I smiled throughout this entire thing.
Oh, come on. There were some great parts in it.
Okay. I just really want to verify that we are talking about 2008's A Christmas Tale, directed by Arnaud Desplechin.
We are.
Okay. Let's get into it.
I love this movie. Loved it.
Loved it. Okay.
Loved it.
I'm going to let you steer this conversation. I'm just going to sit back and have a smoke and a drink.
Because everybody else did in that movie.
Yes, they did. All right, so let's talk about it. It is it's a contemporary to 2008 film about a very dysfunctional family who get together for Christmas Eve, and there's been a lot of estrangement, a lot of kind of infighting, a lot of bad blood running through this family for 6 years officially, but decades before that. Sure. Because in the sort of the cold open, we find out that Elizabeth, the eldest sister in the group, she bails out her brother. I was a little bit fuzzy on the details here. There's something about a failed theater or something, but he was basically...
she's in the theater. He bought the theater on absolutely no credit, apparently, and then defaulted, and then she bailed him out.
That's right. And the condition of that, because he was facing some serious time, was if she bailed him out, that the condition was she was never to see him again, and that would extend to... she wouldn't be if there were family gatherings, he could not show up. He would have to essentially meet with the rest of the family in secret, because it's weird because they're such a tight knit family who absolutely can't stand each other, that it's very odd that he would have to go, or she would have to go through these kind of lengths to keep them apart. A lot of this is wrapped up in animosity that goes back a long time, for reasons that the characters seem to have forgotten, which was kind of a nice touch, but it's not really expressed why we should be on her side against her
Who's
brother
that?
Henri, played by Matthew Almeric, who people, I've seen him in a number of movies.
Yes,
Most
so
mainstream people would, in America, probably recognize him as the villain from James Bond: Quantum of Solace.
yeah, very good.
And Catherine Deneuve plays the matriarch of the family, Junon, I believe.
Yes, so you
Who,
know him.
yes, and she's been recently diagnosed with a bone marrow disease, and she is in desperate need of a transplant. Spoiler alert: there are two members of the family. I don't know if I don't want to give the entire thing away because I think there are
Yeah,
people who are,
it's such a unique film that people really need. Suffice to say, they're looking for bone marrow transplantees, and they have to get it from her family. So,
yes,
so
and
there you go.
there are is a person or are people within the family, keeping it nice and
Right,
vague, who would be a match.
right.
And the whole family comes together in the house of Abel, played by Jean-Paul Roussillon, and
Love that guy.
Catherine Deneuve as Junon. They have absolutely everybody in their house for like the 3 days leading up to Christmas or whatever it is. And stuff explodes, and there are secrets that are revealed, and yeah, just all these entangled relationships, weaving in and out of each other. Tell me, Pat, what was it about this film that you connected with?
Families are messy. That's what connected it to me. Families are not these cream cheese bullshit, American dream bullshit that we're constantly fed during the holiday season. You know, I like to call it. I've used this term before on the show: upper middle class porn, where everybody has everything perfectly decorated and everything is put away, and they have Martha Stewart dinners and all that bullshit. It's
Yeah,
bullshit. Every family is messy, and this one tells you that every family is messy, but they still love each other. And love can come in many, many, many forms, not just, the upper middle class porn, perfect Martha Stewart shit. It can come in as messiness and trying to forgive and trying to remember why I'm angry about this. There's a lot of stuff going on. Having gone through a lot of family stuff this year, interacting with my family a lot, it's a fucking mess. So that's why I dug it. That's why I dug it.
Yes, I will agree that families can be messy. I'm not going to put the blanket statement out there and say that families are messy, because I know
But
families.
we're all human. We're
No,
inherently messy.
I disagree. We are all human, but I have the privilege of being married to a woman who has the most normal, middle class, cookie cutter, healthy family dynamics that I've ever seen. I mean, it's like something out of a Hallmark movie.
Where are their politics?
Hmm?
Where are their politics?
I mean, they're mixed for sure. I would say, leaning towards the conservative side, but then, the younger, like the siblings, the kids have, they clash a bit. But when I say they well, no, when I say clash, I don't mean that they're throwing, forks over the table at each other at dinner.
No.
We just
I'm
don't.
just simply saying that people are human beings, and they're going to have their own little things brought into the family dynamic. I grew up in a family like you're describing, Ian. My family was cream cheese and wonderfulness, but all our dynamics come together, and it isn't exactly meshing a lot of times. It's just humanity, and that's why I love this film. It was about humanity. It was about how we are flawed, but
Here's the thing. It almost seems, I mean, this movie could have been set at any other time of the year. And I think the fact that it's called A Christmas Tale is almost a cruel joke, because this is honestly an anti-Christmas, anti-holiday movie. It's almost like saying, we're going to go see the Date movie. And it ends up being about sexual assault.
Jesus Christ.
Seriously, you say that there's love in this family. For 2.5 hours, all this family does is talk about how much, not only that they hate each other, like, I hate my sister. They're all like, my mom, the mother says, I could never connect with you. I never loved you. I never felt anything for you. I never felt anything for my husband. The husband's like, I never felt anything for the son who died. All of this, they keep reinforcing this, and there's never any point where they have a reconciliation, even at the point where I'll say that the donation, the marrow transplant happens. Now, what happens after that is sort of left up to us to figure out, but there's not, and I guess I can appreciate it doesn't go down the cliched route of like, oh, you've helped me out, and isn't this a cheerful, loving thing, and we're all wrong about each other. They don't do that, but I never got the sense that it's not a loving, generous act. As many of the characters point out, it is an act almost of being able to hold bragging rights and a little bit of vengeance in the situation.
Well, I will say one thing to counterpoint that message is that this family is blatantly honest to each other. I think there is a sort of love in that. There are very, 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 very few families who could say anything to each other. You can go to your wife's family, and yeah, they can get together and be nice to each other during the holidays and everything. But what if you said something really honest to them?
Well, but no, that let's rewind the tape there, because
I'm not going to go to your wife's family because they're great.
Well, no,
So
but what I'm saying is this is something that comes up a lot in people. They say, I'm just honest. You can be honest with people, but there's also such a thing as tact. Instead of saying, you are an alt-right Nazi Trump supporter and I hate you and everything you stand for, you can say, what do you like about Trump? There's a difference. There's a difference.
You're filtering this film through your own attitudes toward family, and I understand that. I'm looking at it as a piece of cinema and saying these characters, because of their honesty, have a certain amount of love for each other.
Right, and what I'm saying is, I never had any reason to care about any of these people because they are so reprehensible and irredeemable from the beginning of the film to the end, except for the two cute little kids. And even then I was worried about them. Like, someone needs to come and adopt you.
What about Paul? He was just suffering from mental illness. I don't think he was reprehensible.
Well, Paul is sort
We're
of
talking about the teenage boy.
Right.
He is the only son of the oldest daughter.
I should clarify. I'm talking about the adults because yes, Paul is, Paul, it does have his own problems and everything, but it's almost another sour ingredient in this movie because we witness a number of his kind of schizophrenic episodes. It's not pleasant to watch anything that he goes through in the film. So it just kind of heaps more of this misery and sadness. I didn't feel anything antagonistic towards him, but I felt pity and I felt sadness that he was wrapped up in this family that didn't even know how to love him. And in a lot of cases used him as sort of a chip to get back at each other for things.
Jesus Christ, dude.
It's all in the screenplay.
Season to you.
What's that?
Did you not get the right tree or something? What's going on?
No, I'm saying I don't see how you can see any kind of light or warmth in this movie because it's just not there.
Wow. Okay. Well, Ivan is a character, the youngest son. He didn't have any real flaws or.
Yes, he did.
What was his reprehension?
Well, okay. And this is reprehension. It should be though. Ivan as a character, he's fine. What we see of him as being a devoted dad to those two little kids. Right. He's got a wife, Sylvie. They seem to connect. She's not of that family blood. She got married into it, and right. was the mother to those kids. So that explains why she's not completely messed up. But as the film goes on, we learn that Sylvie was the object of affection of a cousin in the family named Simon.
And a brother.
Right. Well, okay. Here's where it gets really kind of sticky. It turns out that 10 or 15 years or whatever before, when they were much younger, the two brothers in the family and then this cousin Simon all had a thing for Sylvie. Right. And they made it.
Was very attractive.
We're just going to disagree on everything.
I was just kidding.
I was going to say she turned to the side.
I thought
interesting
looking woman.
Yeah, she's and she was a fine.
When she stripped.
Wow. Anyway, I prefer the term unwrapping the present, but anyway, the three. Yikes. I'm pretty sure there was some bell ringing, but that was all shown off. That was all off screen. But no, okay, so you actually got the bell out. I love it. Clarence. No, okay. But it's revealed that the backstory of this relationship, her relationship with Ivan, is essentially the three guys got together when they were younger and they said, look, we all have a thing for this girl, Sylvie. Who's going to get her? And okay. Ivan had some, we're meant to believe that he connects with Paul, the teenager in the present, because Ivan himself had a number of episodes and kind of problems when he was, a rambunctious teenager. Mm-hmm. Henri made a pass at Sylvie and was kind of rejected.
No,
Simon.
Sex. She admits they had sex.
I didn't catch that. I know she said that he made a pass at her, and that's the only reference I got to them actually doing something.
She had sex.
Well, all right. So Simon essentially says, look, Ivan, you're all messed up. And Ivan said, I like her. And Simon was like, well, I have no self-esteem, so sure, go ahead and have her. And they end up pairing off together. But Simon, for the next decade plus, becomes this sourpuss reclusive artist type who's just pining for this, the one who not got away, but the one he let go. So of course they're all staying in the same house together, and Sylvie and Simon hook up. They meet at a bar on Christmas Eve.
Spoiler alert.
Well, all right. It's no surprise. What gets back to to Ivan's character is the next morning he wakes up. And I was like, my jaw hit the floor because I'm like, okay, Sylvie and Simon end up at this bar. They're drinking. They go back to the car and they're drinking and talking some more. And they're kind of flirting and they're being all very handsy with each other. I'm like, I know where this is going.
And then he unwrapped the present. Well, yeah.
They go back to the house, the family house, to have sex in the bedroom down the same hallway where Ivan is sleeping with her kids. And I'm like, no. And the next
Vive la France!
The next morning, Ivan wakes up in bed with the two adorable little kids. They're like, hey, where's mom? They go down the hall. They open the door. Mom's there, naked in bed with Uncle Simon. And Ivan walks by and he's just kind of like gives a knowing smile. I'm like, no, what the hell is going on with you people? This is twisted. He doesn't have like, hey, I can't believe you slept with my wife. If he was thinking, oh, well, it's about time you got what you wanted. And like, okay, that's really a help. That's a great, model for your kids. There are no family values in this thing at all. It's a Christmas tale, Pat.
Well, I think a lot of the anti-Christmas tale aspects of it is the point. But I will, again, to counter this thing, they did set it up pretty well. It was very intensely discussed. And not that she had to sleep with him or didn't have to sleep with him. It happened.
She confesses, she proclaims when she goes to confront Simon how she felt manipulated by the machinations of these men. And I don't blame her. If Simon, because she felt sorry for Ivan and eventually grew to love him and became the mother of his children, but she describes the passion as being something that kind of re-emerged or had to manifest, whereas she felt more something for Simon, whereas if he had the balls to stand up for what he actually wanted, they could have ended up together. Now, they wouldn't have had those two adorable kids, which have been a crime against the cosmos. But in another context, especially, this is 2008, but if you flash this forward to 2021, it's not going to fly with a woman, her destiny kind of being decided by this backroom dealing of these three guys deciding who gets to quote unquote get her.
It's just part of the story, man.
I know it's part of the story. And when we tell the Weinstein story and you're like, hey, I just had the girl come up to my room. It's just part of the story, man. It's fine. It's great. It's true.
Man.
Masturbating in a plant in the restaurant. It's great. It's just part of the story.
Man, what a morality. Good God. Cinema is not supposed to be about morality.
Well, I mean, it can be, but here's the thing. When you're again, it gets back to, I didn't watch the trailer for this. I just I just went in sight unseen. I'm like expecting a
here.
bit of dysfunction, as all, because we've seen this movie 100 times before. The dysfunctional family gets together, there's secrets, there's all this stuff, but usually it's in the context of like a comedy with some dramatic elements. This movie was like the Family Stone without the jokes.
Wow, I thought there was a lot of humorous stuff in it. I mean, the aspect of Catherine Deneuve. Let's just talk about her character for a second.
Okay.
Junon. She is the anti-mother. The filmmaker is making a point about motherhood that it finally has to be said. This is one of the aspects of this honesty that really, really made me connect to this film. These people were honest toward each other. Yes, Henri was an asshole, and he was not gonna say I'm sorry for being an asshole. He's just saying this is who I am, and the mother is saying this is who I am. They did love each other. The father was great. He reminded me of a 1940s character actor. His hangdog, several decades more age than Deneuve in the movie. It's just, it's a twist on this family thing, as you just mentioned, the dysfunctional family getting together. But there's none of that heavy anvil of angst that has to permeate everybody who has flaws. Now these are flawed human beings, but they're flawed in the sense of within their honesty, and they're able to accept things. One of the reasons that the youngest kid accepts his wife sleeping with the other guy is because he knows she's been obsessing about it. I mean, it's just like it was an inevitability into his attitude towards it. It's not like, oh, for gosh sakes, oh, Carrie Nation, let us Carrie Nation's the wrong thing. Who's a big prude? I can't think of a prude right now, but I'm just simply saying.
Well, it doesn't have to do with prudishness necessarily. It has to do with, as you call it, honesty. Instead of going, honesty does not give license to do things that are inherently wrong. Now,
well,
if you want,
wrong,
well, no, here's the thing.
Look, I don't think it's wrong. I just think it is. It's not good or bad. Just is. It just happens.
Okay, it does. I know people cheat all the time, but I will go on record as saying that is wrong. There's a reason it's called cheating and it has a negative connotation. If you go into a relationship and you tell the person that you love and is going to be the mother of your children, look, this is great, but one day I'm going to fuck around on you. Okay, now there are some people who would say, cool. And there are other people who would say, well, there's the door.
Well, then what about an open marriage? Is that wrong?
I would say personally, for me, it's abhorrent. But if the people who are entering into that, decide that that's what they want to do, that's fine. I would say if you're going to bring kids into that mess, then I got a real problem with that. Okay. Especially in this situation, because if they didn't have these two adorable little French kids, I still would have found it disgusting, but it wouldn't have been, borderline DCFS material, because again, these kids walk into the bedroom, they see mom naked in bed with their uncle, and nobody makes a big deal about it. What is this going to do to the way that they, view their family, view their own relationships? I'm thinking about all this stuff because it's messed up.
Wow. Okay. Well, you have a difference of opinion on the relative ways that they conduct their lives, and I understand that. I'm not putting any judgment on it. Again, I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying. Well, but
you're kind of saying that it's not bad because it is what it is. I mean, I'm not putting a morality judgment on it. As I sit watching that film, I am saying, wow, what a story. Very interesting. Everybody's very honest with each other. Oh, wow, she slept with him, and the kids go in and see her. Well, they don't understand sex. It's just mom getting up. So what? She's with Simon.
Do they care? They're 6 or
These
7 years old.
Yeah, they're probably, I think they're like 7 or 8 at that point, maybe
Okay.
even close to 9, because
But
Henri has a memory of them being younger. So he would have seen them before he got banished 6 years ago. So they are probably old enough to understand something, because kids around that age, they're starting to get, the education and the talk and all that.
If you're filtering it through your experiences, and I understand that, and people have to do that when they watch film. I'm simply saying I was not trying to judge these people. I was trying to understand them through their character motivations and through what they were doing in the story. And what I'm saying is this was what the filmmaker, I believe, was saying, is that families, number one, are messy. Number two, they have their own rules. And number three, we can't judge them for those rules.
We certainly can. I mean, what if the rule was, we just want to have sex with these little 7-year-old kids. It's just the way
God's sakes, you're going way off.
No, I'm not,
here.
Because you have to draw a line in the sand. You can't just say everything goes. So I'm just curious to know where your line is.
Saying everything goes. They're saying that this obsessive relationship has gone on long enough. So let's consummate it and move on with our lives.
But what is that?
I'm shouting right now. No,
I guess my question is, what does moving on in that context mean? Because at the end of this, Sylvie goes back with her family. She has this really weird, affectionate, rubbing up against each other hug with Simon, but then she leaves with her family. So is this going to be an ongoing affair? Is it a one and done thing?
If you want to director and ask for a sequel.
Right. But what I'm saying is, if there's all these pining feelings, and Sylvie, I understand there was, alcohol involved, and people make this movie is nothing but awful decisions. Then, I guess it's not surprising that she would sleep with Simon. But if there was no alcohol and a little bit of, these awful morals involved, she could have said, all right, Simon, put everything on the table. I am going to leave my husband and kids, get divorced, and then I can go be with Simon and figure that whole thing out.
But we don't see that. All we see is the end of the movie. Goodbye.
No, I'm talking about before she slept with Simon. If she wanted to have a cleaner, well, I was going to say cleaner conscience, but I don't think that matters to any of the characters in this film except for the under 21s. She would have figured this all out without involving everybody else.
All right. Well, again, I don't know. Maybe because I don't have kids, I don't think about things like that. But again, I think we would be saner if we were more honest to each other. And I'm not saying I want to sleep with a 7-year-old, for Christ's sake.
Thanks for clarifying that. I was not accusing or suggesting that at all. No.
You introduced that into the pile, and that it's unreasonable to the story. The reasonable to the story is this obsessiveness that these two people had, and that's only one part of the story too. By the way, there's a lot of other shit going on. The character of Henri. Another fascinating character, so brilliantly and so masterfully portrayed by Mathieu. Thank you. And how about his girlfriend, Fauna? A perfectly honest person. Here is this what the movie is trying to tell us. This is a repulsive character who doesn't belong in the family, who needs to be exiled. And here this very lovely gal attaches herself to and sits there bemused why he acts the way he acts, because he is honest. He is an honest person. She had been, if I'm putting a backstory on her, she had been with enough guys who hadn't been honest. And then they deceive her. But Henri will never deceive her, because he lacks that sensibility where he's going to put a facade on himself or lie to somebody. He is what he is, and he's an asshole. So let us move on.
Well, I mean, that's the thing is, I liked the idea of her character, but I didn't find anything honest in her character. I mean, I think I'm putting a lot of this back on the actress. The thing is, I don't understand how a stranger can go to a family dinner and witness what she does in this family situation and just sit there with that bemused look, because they get into fights. They're yelling. They're telling all sorts of horrible things to each other.
Did Ivan and Henri get into that fight? Was
I
it the
think so.
youngest? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And she's
We
just sitting
didn't.
there. She's just sitting there like, oh, very
We
interesting.
should.
And then she goes out shopping with Junon, the mom, which was kind of nice. They go out clothes shopping and kind of giving each other these sort of like in the dressing room makeovers. And then Junon just disappears. One of the ladies comes in and says, "Oh, that lady you were with, she's gone."
I love
And
that part.
I can't remember her name. I have it.
Fauna.
Fauna,
Oh,
yes. She's just like, oh, weird. Not like, oh, I'm stranded in this strange town, or oh,
listen,
the elderly lady who's been diagnosed with bone marrow disease just disappeared. There was no reaction whatsoever.
This could be a very French movie. The French culture is different than the American culture. Let's face it. I don't know a lot about the French culture, but when we take a deep dive into it, maybe this is one of the results of it. The people are blatantly honest with each other, or don't get offended when somebody they barely know just leaves. I don't know. It's just, there was a lot of discussion about Fauna's derriere, by the way, and I'll use the French term.
No, very good. Yeah. Comparing it to Angela Bassett, very specific references. I like that. But then it was
there. Ian likes something about the movie. Hallelujah. Wait, where's my bell?
I was being somewhat facetious. So does that count still? But no, it's great because because Fauna does eventually leave and she goes back to spend Christmas with her family. And even
she's
then,
Jewish. They don't celebrate Christmas. That was another beautiful thing that it was thrown into the pile of woe.
Right, but here's the thing: because it's this movie, it's not even she just goes back to spend some time with her family over the holidays,
right.
Jewish or not. It's I didn't write this down, but it was like I'm going back to spend the night with my family and we're just going to get some takeout and sit and look at each other because we don't get along. There was it was another, unhealthy, dysfunctional family. I'm like, well, of course, that's why she's responding to Mathieu. She's probably I was Mathieu, the actor. Yeah.
My favorite part with Henri is when he stole his nephew's drugs.
Oh, that's right. The medication that was hilarious and heartwarming. Let me tell you.
And he passes out, but then he does a Spider-Man down the back of the house. And he encounters his father taking out the trash. Oh, good to see you. Now,
yep.
It's interesting to observe a family at a certain age because this family, the kids were like 30 something all the way down to maybe late 20s for
right,
Ivan.
Probably, yeah.
And so having gone through those family stages, when I can think about those times, and how different people are starting to act as you get older. This is part of it too, because this is about amends or trying to understand what kind of amends there are when a mother is dying. It's an interesting dynamic because you're not quite an adult because you're going back to mommy and daddy's house, and you're not quite a kid. Well, you're not a kid anymore, obviously. And the distinction between the family that had children and Henri and people who didn't, Simon, is a very distinct, kind of aspect because the people who have responsibilities were a lot saner because they had to be sane because they had to put up the fronts that everybody has to put up to try to get through your day to day. Again, I think the fundamental disagreement here is that you saw some behaviors that you didn't like, and so it threw you off. Threw you off to what the movie was. I'm not, but that's just the difference of the filter. My filter is different than yours, and I'm not. I loved the movie because I thought this is how honest people are. this is how it happens, and this is what happens when honest people get together. So, I mean, that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's why we do this. That's why we do this podcast. When have we had such a disagreement? I don't think we've ever had this.
This might be, yeah, the magic of the holiday season is drawing us together. But no, let's talk about because we can talk.
This is a good one to watch on Christmas Day if you're the type of family who's maybe a little kind of cinephile families would really enjoy something like this on Christmas Day, because it would kind of be an anecdote to all the cheese and bells and Hallmark movies and all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I would think that if you're going to celebrate Christmas Day, you should celebrate with all the cheese and and the Hallmark stuff that you want, because that's sort of the point of celebrating something, is enjoying it. Either that, or just like turn off the TV and just don't leave your house if you don't want to see the lights and everything.
I love that they were watching the 10 Commandments. That killed me. That was so good.
Here's the thing. I think this is the perfect movie to buy up a bunch of copies of it on DVD and then throw them into the fire.
Well, that's chemicals. The resins on the DVD is going to go into the air.
It's less harmful than watching this movie. Anyway, I do, because we're not going to agree like thematically or whatever on this, but I do want to get into a question of the actual filmmaking. There was something that bugged the crap out of me, and I don't know if this is, as you call it, a French thing or what, but there are a lot of this is told through sort of quick montage, like these weird little scene transitions, and we get snips of things and longer scenes. And it's all
the iris shot.
I was going to ask about the irising in and out. What do you reckon was the point of that? Was it just a flourish?
The point of it was that we're voyeurs into this family dynamic. We're looking through the keyhole, and then suddenly it widens out to show us the scene. Basically, an iris shot is an eye that's opening, right? So, you're starting, and when you can focus on one thing and then the eye opens to the whole scene, it's a cinematic technique, basically.
And that's the thing, is I don't think it works in this case, because the thrust of the film, or the delivery mechanism, especially with
there was some thrusting in the film, but that didn't come till later.
That was after the package was open. And it did not involve those kids, just for the record. But I will say the kind of, what was it? I keep forgetting her name. I want to call her Fauna, but Henri's date for the weekend, she is sort of our eyes into this family. We spend a lot of time. We are almost like
she is us.
Yes. And when she's not around, there is this sort of very intimate feel. We feel like we're in the room with these people at the table, or, in the bedroom or whatever. So that, I don't know that works with the whole like irising thing, because we're so ingrained and introduced into this family that every time that happened, I was like, is this an homage to silent films, or is it just that they were bored with their transitions? Because it's so random and sparse. It'll pop up at 3 or 4 times at random parts of the movie. I just couldn't figure out what they were trying to say.
Yeah, I think it would work better if we were to watch it again and then see what scene transpires after they use the iris shot, because sometimes it's used for emphasis too, and it could have been something thematic that came along. Who is your favorite character?
Besides the kids, I would have to say, and I would imagine this is in line with what you're thinking, because you've spoken highly of him already, and that's Abel, the dad, because he feels so incongruous. It almost feels as if he is the character who's about to die, because the way that he regards his family, even though the film opens with him giving a monologue about how he's so disconnected from, I think Joseph was the kid who died, and also with other members of his family, there is the sense that there is some kind of a residual warmth there. And I don't quite understand how. I would get the feeling that the mother, if I had to guess, was the stronger presence in that family, even before, she was diagnosed with the bone marrow thing. But the reason I say that it seems as if he's the one on the verge of death is he's so accepting and kind of like smiling and affectionate, with people that it's like, I'm on my way out. I don't care if I hate all these people. I'm never going to see them again. So, come here, Tiger.
Any of them. He loves them. He tries to save Henri. I mean, he was going to, mortgage his factory.
Right. Once again, listen to the way that they talk about each other throughout the entire film, and then look at their actions. It is incongruous, but if we're going to, they spend so much time. That's another thing. It was a weird technique. The characters breaking the fourth wall, whether they're reading letters to us that they've written, or they're just giving these like little like interior monologues. It was a nice little touch. But again, they're sharing a lot of insight to these characters, but it's almost all poisonous.
Wow.
And that's fine if you're into this movie. So yeah, who's your favorite character?
Henri, of course. He was totally himself. He was totally himself the entire film. And I just love the fact that he never broke character, never had a sentimental moment in the whole movie. You referenced the exchange of gifts was very, very interesting, mostly money. But when is it Sylvia? Is it the oldest?
Elizabeth. Elizabeth is the older sister. Sylvia is Ivan's wife. Yeah.
Okay, very good. She gave him back his letter. That was devastating. Because here's a guy who has a hard time manifesting his feelings beyond his total just retrobate atmosphere, and he sat down to try to make amends, and she totally rejects him. And I was thinking, who is the one now that has the ball in her court? I think it is Elizabeth now, because he's the one that's saying, hey, let's put this past us. But she's going to like, nope, I'm an ironclad to that thing. I paid for it. I bailed him out, even though it's obvious he has a lot of money. And I'm going to stick to that pact. I will never, ever talk to him again. And the only reason she's compromising here, of course, is because mommy's dying. So.
Well, he reads that letter. If that's the letter that you're referring to, it's not a good letter.
No, the letter I'm referring to is the one he sends to Elizabeth, trying to make amends.
Is that the one that he read to us in that monologue?
Yes.
He read
that.
Right.
That was to Elizabeth.
Right. But what I'm saying is, in that letter, he says terrible things about her. He might be trying to make amends in his own messed up way, but he's essentially calling her an awful, cold, remote, terrible mother and a bad sister. You can't write that and say, but let's be pals. That doesn't work. It's a wonder she didn't.
I'd have to go and listen to the whole letter again. I can't make a judgment on it because I can't remember exactly what the content of the letter was. How about let's switch gears here. How about the father quoting Nietzsche to her? When he brings out the book, it's called the Genealogy of Morals, and it's in the preface that he reads, and it's such a beautiful summation of the human of humanity, of the human psyche, of the human flaws that we have. Our facades, our constant manipulation of the scene to try to make us look good, but missing the finer points of our own destinies. It was crazy. It was so, I had to look it up afterward because I was so entranced by it. But in fact, I have it for 30 days. Did you get it from Amazon?
Yeah, I rented it.
Yeah, it was 99 cents. Beautiful. It's the best bargain you'll have for Christmas.
Well, not the best bargain. I almost bought it because you can buy it for $5.
Ooh, you would have been like cursed. You would have had to burn your computer instead of just the DVD. You would have had to take your hard drive and burn that plastic so that it goes up and causes global warming.
Well, we are not recording this on the computer on which I watched it, but yes, you're right. If I had this would have been a different conversation. I would have been crying because I'm like, I got to buy a new computer. Sorry.
So what I'm going to do for you is go back to that scene, see, because he says it in a truncated form. It's much longer when I looked it up. But I don't know. There's some eternal truths out there. Nietzsche is great for truth because he really looked into the dark passages of the human soul. And I just, I again, with the year I've had, a year of loss, I'm truly trying to strip away a lot of the veneer because I'm just sick of it. I'm just tired of it. And really, that film, I guess, kind of went right to that wheelhouse that I'm talking about. So anyway, I get what you're saying, and I understand what you're saying, because there are certain ways you can look at something like that, and depending on your mood or depending on what you're trying to get through on your day, that can really be like, well, F these people. These are terrible people. I don't want to watch terrible people. Or, in my point of view, wow, all the veneers are gone. They're really going after each other. They're trying to make it. They are a family. So,
And to that, I would
don't know
just
if
say that,
sums it up.
well, but I
To
mean, that's
that,
the
I would
thing.
just say, you cur, you dog, you Christmas hating bastard.
I would never accuse you of hating Christmas. I mean, look at your outfit.
That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
God, I hope not. I would just
accuse you of hating Christmas. I love that.
I would just caution, Pat, in your quest to remove the veneer, just remember that sometimes the veneer is also the depth. Sometimes, shiny, happy people, there's a lot of shine and a lot of happiness and not as much darkness and misery. I think people.
It's all in degrees, man. It's just the type of experiences you've had. Now you're a pretty honest person. I mean,
Thank you.
come on. You don't mind saying something to somebody when you feel strongly about it. I don't.
Right, but I never, aside from some filmmakers who might disagree with what I've written about their films, I am always, well, at least I try and be polite. I don't jump down people's throats. I avoid conflict whenever possible, while also trying to get my point across. I would not associate with anybody in this film who is over the age of 21. That sounded really weird, but let me just say, just to go back to it, like the teenagers and the little
kids. I know
kids.
what you said earlier.
But
my eyebrow raised. That's all I have to say.
I'm saying like the little kids and the teenager are the only ones in the movie who don't strike me as like unpleasant and miserable, aside from maybe Abel.
I want to hang out with Abel because he's cool.
Yeah.
Junon because she's cool. Henri for sure. For Elizabeth, forget it. Ivan, forget it. Claude, forget it. Claude is Elizabeth's husband, right? Definitely Fauna. I want to hang out with her. I want to party with her.
Just don't go shopping with her.
Definitely Sylvia. I'll go shopping with her to see Angela Bassett. Sure, I will. Simon, no. Simon, I did not like Simon, I have to say. And that obsession that he had was like, dude, get over it, man. Life is short. But hey, that was part of the story, and we had to accept it at that face value. There's
we don't have to accept these things at face value, Pat. It's okay to watch something and vehemently disagree with it.
Oh God, yes. How could we live if we didn't put art through our filter and comment on it?
Sure.
But that goes back to my thing that nobody is an expert. You might accumulate a big knowledge of film, and you might, through ego, express it all the time. But that doesn't make you a better critiquer than somebody else who's out there who maybe has experienced exactly what's happening in this film and can comment on it much better. That's just part of my philosophy. But one of the great quotes in this, and it was just a throwaway, but it was when who visited Abel at the factory. Remember, there's a scene where Abel's at the factory and somebody comes and visits him. Was it Simon? I don't know. Simon works at the factory.
Yeah, I think is that the scene you're talking about?
I don't know, but anyway, Abel is at the factory, and he says dyeing fabric is just fine, and basically that's a metaphor for the whole picture. The fabric of our family is dying, and it's just fine.
You know, again, a heartwarming holiday film.
The Family Stone without the jokes.
I did actually write down a passage
Yes.
from that letter that Henri wrote to Elizabeth. It was just one line because it stuck out. I was like, this is Shakespearean in its delivery, and also the kind of thing that you don't really come back from. He says, "Reckless sister, you have offended your blood." That's right. I don't know where that belongs in a letter of reconciliation, but then again, I'm not French.
It might be again, he's quoting something from France, or he's quoting something from literature. Who knows? You might want to type that into the Google machine. But just like I typed in A Christmas Tale speech and got the Nietzsche thing. So you know.
Yeah, I might look that up. But I'm trying to think, is there anything else?
I mean, we couldn't have picked a better movie. Seriously. Because what is the holiday but a conflict of values? The holiday is supposedly supposed to be the greatest time of year. Well, this year has been real shitty for everybody. So we have to take this shit and throw it into the greatest time of the year and see what happens. There's going to be a lot of depression. There's going to be a lot of anger. There's going to be a lot of drinking. There's going to be stealing your nephew's depression drugs and sleeping it off. And
but Pat,
Spider-Man.
There is also going to be a lot of joy and love and togetherness and celebration.
God bless you, man. Don't ever change.
Don't
ever let that veneer slide off your bed.
I'll do my best.
Since we're at the end of 2021, I just wanted to say how much I appreciate doing this show. Because and what you do in the cultural landscape is just brilliant, man. You are one of the hardest working men in show business, and you deliver to whatever sick crowd you have out there listening to you. And they're going to be sicker after hearing this one. But I have genuine admiration for how you approach this profession, and your kindness, and your the way that you bring people in, and how you accept everybody and everything, and it's really admirable, man, and I'm glad to be part of the coterie.
Well, thank you, Pat. I gotta say, this is one of the highlights of my month. You know, I have a billion series going on and rotating guests and all this other stuff, but one of the things I love about talking to you is, present film aside, you introduced me to a lot of wonderful cinema that I had.
This will be the last Christmas movie you pick, Scrooge.
But we always end up talking about movies that I've not seen before that you introduced me to, and you bring a wonderful perspective to, and a warmth that, I mean, the fact that you can draw warmth and compassion and kindness out of A Christmas Tale, I feel like I am the Grinch here with my heart like 19 sizes too small. I'm like, what am I missing?
We're doing an opposite thing. It's a Grinchy film that you hate, but I love. So we're doing well, you know, one of the great things that we do is we try to find a film that neither of us have seen. But, you know, again, I have this big list in my head. You have this big list in your head. And somehow we were able to nail down things, you know, like we were talking about Summer of 42, something I'd seen, 40 years ago. But to revisit it as an adult and see it from an adult perspective, that was grand. Very interesting. Very interesting. So anyway, it's just, it's now we're coming to our kumbaya moment. So let's
yeah.
If you have a soundtrack, you have to put a Christmas carol as we go out, and I'll ring my bell.
You ring your bell, because I won't get copyright struck for putting a Christmas song at the end.
And we went 20 minutes longer than you wanted to.
It's okay. I love you, Pat, and I love these conversations.
I love you too, Ian.
All right, man. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Happy
Christmas
New
to
Year.
you too, sir.
If I don't talk to you, Happy New Year. And 2022 is going to be amazing. If for no other reason that we're going to be back here talking about movies next month. So thank you very much, sir. I love you.
Love you.
Bye.